Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This day in sports history. It's March 20th, and on this day in 1934, it was another Babe who showed what they could do on the baseball diamond. Babe Didrikson Zaharias was one of the greatest athletes of the 20th century, and without a doubt, the greatest female athlete of the first half of the 20th century. She was an Olympic champion and later a golf champion. But on this day in 1934, Babe Didrikson, she hadn't met her future husband and wrestler George Zaharias yet, was pitching for Connie Mack's Philadelphia Athletics, facing down the Brooklyn Dodgers in a spring training game in Fort Myers, Florida. Didrikson was less than 2 years removed from the Los Angeles Olympics of 1932, where she had won 2 golds and a silver in track and field. But here in 34, the country was mired in the Great Depression, and it was tough for a lot of people to find work and earn a living, even an Olympic champion. She had joined a barnstorming baseball team, and the promoter for that team had arranged for Babe to meet up with pitcher Burley Grimes in Arkansas. After working out a bit and Babe learning how to throw a curveball, Grimes made the comment that if Babe were a guy, she'd be one of the top prospects. That turned into a trip to Fort Myers for a couple of exhibition games pitching against some major league players, with the first game here on the 20th. Didrikson suited up for the Athletics. Casey Stengel sent Danny Taylor to the plate first. Taylor was coming off a year where he hit .300. Didrikson had a little trouble finding the plate and walked him. Next up was Johnny Frederick, who she then plunked. A bit of a shaky start in front of an estimated 400 spectators. Stengel then sent Joe Strip to the plate. Strip had hit .324 with Cincinnati the previous season. He swung at the first pitch. Second baseman Dib Williams snagged the line drive, whipped it to second base to double up Taylor, and then threw over to first baseman Jimmy Fox, who touched the bag before Frederick could get back for the triple play. That was the only inning she pitched, so even though she had trouble finding the plate, it went down in history as a hitless 3-up, 3-down inning. She took the mound 2 days later in another exhibition and showed some improvement with her control and her curveball, but got roughed up by the Boston Red Sox in her lone inning then. Let's keep the spring training vibe going with this story from 1975. On this day, the Texas Rangers, managed by Billy Martin, were playing a spring training game against the New York Yankees in Fort Lauderdale. The leadoff hitter for the Yankees was former Texas Ranger Elliot Maddox, who was not a big fan of Billy Martin when he played for the Rangers. He had been quoted in a newspaper article saying Martin was very untrustworthy and made a habit of lying to players. Martin was not one to let things slide by, so he instructed his pitcher Jim Bibby to hit Maddox, which he did on the very first pitch. That seemed to be it. Message sent, right? Well, that was until the 7th inning when Yankee left-hander Mike Wallace threw 2 brushback pitches to Dave Nelson. Nelson charged the mound, and the benches cleared in a rare spring training brawl, with, of course, Billy Martin at the center of it. Interestingly, Martin's tenure with the Rangers would only last until July of '75, when he was fired. He was soon hired by George Steinbrenner for his first of several stints managing the Yankees. No word on how that first meeting went between Martin and Maddox when the two met in the Yankee clubhouse for the first time since the brawl on this day. And in 1976, Boston Celtic John Havlicek became the first player in NBA history to score 1,000 points in 14 consecutive seasons. Havlicek was one of the all-time greats who was well known for his stamina. He was a problem for anybody to guard, and he always seemed to come up with the big play. On this night, he poured in 24 against Philadelphia in an overtime win. Havlicek would go on to score at least 1,000 points in his next 2 seasons before retiring after the 78 season. His record streak of consecutive 1,000-point seasons did not last long, however. Houston's Elvin Hayes topped it in 1984. Havlicek was one of the 50 greatest NBA players announced in 1996, and he's still 17th on the all-time NBA scoring list. And in 2010, Northern Iowa, playing as a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, knocked off the overall top seed Kansas 69-67 in the second round. Senior guard Ali Faroukmanesh hit a 3 with 34 seconds left to give the Panthers the lead for good. Faroukmanesh had also hit the game winner in the opening round win against UNLV 2 nights before. And finally, here's today's non-sports Did You Know? Denmark has a list of 7,000 government-approved names for your new baby. If you want to name your kid something that is not on the list, you need to get approval first. Well, good news, no approval needed if you would like to leave a 5-star review and a comment on Apple Podcasts. That would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for listening today, and I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.